Sunan never expected that his own uncontrollable greed would once again lead the entire Su clan into a trap set by Shenlang. At this moment, Sunan personally led 5,000 elite private troops, charging in and seizing the Chang royal palace with the force of a thunderbolt. After clearing out the remaining palace guards, Sunan ordered Su Yong and Su Zhan immediately dispatch 100 scouts to the 4 directions, southeast, northwest. You must establish a warning perimeter within a 100-mile radius. Send half the soldiers to plunder the gold. Be quick. The rest of the soldiers are to set up a tight defense and be ready to fight off any enemy attack. As soon as he finished speaking, something else seemed to occur to him. He strode before his army and shouted sternly, "All soldiers, listen to my command. All gold acquired this time must be handed over. It will be distributed uniformly after we are finished. Anyone found hiding it will be dealt with by military law." Hearing Sunan's command, the 5,000 soldiers' morale soared. Immediately, 2,000 of the private troops swarmed into every corner of the royal palace like a tide. However, when they actually began the work, they discovered that the seemingly soft gold, fused into the stone walls, was extremely difficult to cut due to its tight bond with the stone. Outside, the sun was scorching and the heat was sweltering. In just a short while, the soldiers were drenched in sweat, their clothes soaked through. An hour and a half later, Sunan, looking at the blazing sun and his exhausted soldiers, decisively walked out of the main hall and commanded, "Rotate immediately. Let the brothers cutting the gold switch with the defensive troops. Work in shifts." Under this strict rotation schedule, the group of soldiers worked non-stop from day to night. Night fell like ink. Sunan squatted alone on the palace terrace, wearily gazing into the distance. For some reason, he felt that the silence tonight was unusually abnormal. This illogical quietness sparked a sense of unease in his heart. "Perhaps I'm overthinking things," he thought, shaking his head with self-deprecation. Then, he leaped down from the terrace and walked straight into the palace cellar. Inside the cellar, waves of heat billowed. Soldiers were continuously feeding the cut gold foil into the furnaces. The smelted gold bricks were already piled into a dazzling small mountain by the furnace. Sunan slowly approached, picked up a gold brick, and weighed it in his hand. The heavy weight made him involuntarily narrow his eyes. His rough fingertips gently brushed over the smooth surface of the gold brick. His earlier anxiety was now replaced by a near-dizzying sense of satisfaction. "Thank goodness for this gold accumulated by the Chan king," he muttered to himself, his voice a mixture of relief and unconcealable greed. Just then, Suyong ran up to him, his face flushed with excitement, and said, "My lord, the amount of gold here far exceeds our expectations. Just what we have here is already over 2 million gold coins. With this gold, we'll be able to establish a firm foothold in the western regions. In a few years, the Su family will surely rise again. When we return to the Yu kingdom, we will reclaim what is ours and wipe out Shenlang and the Jin family." As Suyong's voice fell, the soldiers behind him erupted in a fervent cheer. "Exterminate the Jin family. Kill Shenlang. Long live our lord. Long live the Su family." Feeling the atmosphere, Sunan couldn't help but let a meaningful smile creep onto his lips. It seems the power of money is not to be underestimated. Just one day of mining gold has raised morale this high. Meanwhile, in the camp of Xingtua and Liang Yongyan, a frontline scout rushed in to report, "Generals, the defenders in the distant guard Marquis castle have all withdrawn. Only the old, weak, women, and children remain. The entire core of the Su family and their army are nowhere to be found." Hearing this, Xingtua was stunned. How is this possible? That old fox Sunan, how could he so easily abandon this impregnable fortress? Could this be a trap, an empty fort strategy to lure us in? At this moment, Liang Yongyan, after a moment's thought, clasped his hands and said, "General Jing speaks wisely. Sunan is cunning and we must be on guard. Why don't we go and investigate the situation ourselves? Then we will know the truth." Hearing this, Xingtua was somewhat reluctant, but now that even the timid Liang Yongyan had made such a request, he had no choice but to brace himself and agree. Half an hour later, Xingtua and Liang Yongyan stood side by side atop the main keep of the distant guard Marquis mansion, looking down at the entire city in disbelief. Xingtua hadn't expected Sunan to be so bold as to abandon such a massive castle just like that. Anyone else would have found it difficult to do so. However, after their amazement came ecstatic joy. After all, they had thought they would have to pay a huge price to take this city, but now they had done so without any effort at all. This was truly a stroke of immense, heaven-sent fortune. Liang Yongyan laughed. "Isn't it? That Shenlang and Zhang Chong merely defended White Knight County City, while we have eliminated Sunan's main force and captured the main keep of Distant Guard City. How can they compare to such a miraculous achievement?" At these words, Xingtuo's face suddenly darkened. That fool Shenlang wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight, hoping to reap the rewards after Sunan and we were both battered. What a pipe dream. Hearing this, Liang Yongyan couldn't help but laugh out loud. That little beast Shenlang is just a jumping clown. The army of the Wu Kingdom is already at the gates of Furious Tide City. The Jin family's destruction is imminent. Once Jin Mulan's martial arts are crippled and she is sent to the Crown Prince's mansion, on top of the credit for destroying the Su family, Shenlang will truly have lost the lady and lost the army. Xingtua laughed. This time he wants to compete with us for merit? He should weigh himself first. Unless he can get Sunan's head, he won't be able to turn the tables. But who knows? knows? Maybe Su Nan has already fled to the Chu Kingdom or the western regions with his private army. Inside the Chang royal palace, tempted by the gold, the Su clan soldiers seemed to tirelessly cut away at the palace's outer walls day and night. Just as Shenlang had predicted, when these men cut off the gold, they would subconsciously bite it to test its authenticity. Furthermore, these boorish warriors never washed their hands before eating, grabbing their dry rations and stuffing them directly into their mouths. Because of this, all the soldiers who touched the gold ingested the poison on their hands. My stomach hurts. Soon, soldiers in the Su army began to show symptoms of diarrhea. At first, no one paid much attention, thinking it was just an upset stomach due to the summer heat. But as a large number of soldiers began to vomit and have diarrhea with high fevers, and some even passed blood, Su Yong finally realized something was wrong. He rushed to report to Su Nan. My lord, a large number of our soldiers are suffering from diarrhea. Upon investigation, only the few soldiers who did not participate in cutting the gold remain unharmed. As soon as he said this, Su Nan's face changed dramatically. He quickly got up and went to the palace square. When he saw the soldiers moaning in pain, lying in their own filth, he froze as if struck by lightning. At that moment, he finally understood where the unease in his heart had come from. It was the gold. Someone must have tampered with the gold on these walls. Shenlang, this was all your trap, wasn't it? You knew I would come to the Chang palace to seize this gold, so you tampered with it in advance. If that's the case, you and Arun Anna are probably already on your way with 20,000 cavalry. Thinking of this, Su Nan suddenly looked at the collapsed soldiers behind him and felt his blood run cold. These exhausted soldiers, where would they find the strength to fight? It would probably take only a few charges for the Su army to be completely wiped out. At this moment, Su Nan was filled with so much regret he could vomit blood. He knew he should have gone straight to the western regions, not to be tempted by any external objects. But in the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of the gold. What was even more hateful was that he knew Shenlang was flawlessly cunning, yet he still held on to a sliver of hope. He could only blame himself for his weak will. At this time, a trembling Su Yong said, My lord, our scouts are 100 miles out. At Shenlang's speed, it will probably take a few more days to arrive. Why don't we let the soldiers rest for 2 days, finish cutting the remaining gold, and then retreat? However, before he could finish, Su Nan cut him off sharply. Immediately give the order to terminate the mission. Take the gold we have. Everyone mount up. Retreat from this place at once. Although Su Nan had promptly led his army to retreat from the Chang royal palace, the number of sick soldiers in the army continued to climb along the way until it exceeded half of the entire force. It was because of the burden of these sick soldiers that after 2 days of travel on the vast grasslands, they had covered less than 200 miles. Urgent report! Urgent report! Just as Su Nan was at his wit's end, the sound of a scout's urgent call came as he galloped towards them. Lord, south, there is a large Chang kingdom. Su Nan suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. These words sent a shiver through him. A large force of over 10,000 Chang kingdom cavalry is charging at us from the south. Shenlang, you are truly ruthless. Not only did you secretly poison my army, but you also broke convention by taking a detour to chase us from the south. Truly vicious to the extreme. At this moment, Su Zhan, following behind, was also filled with regret, repeatedly slapping himself. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have been so greedy. If I hadn't coveted the gold, we wouldn't have ended up in this state. Su Yong knelt on the ground, kowtowing until his head bled. After all, he was the one who first mentioned the gold hidden in the Chang royal palace. However, Su Nan had no time to deal with any of this. He could feel that this time, the Su family was facing a true catastrophe. Was there really no way out? Just as he was burning with anxiety, Su Yong and Su Zhan stepped forward together and said solemnly, My lord, we are the ones who caused this disaster. It is only right that we stay behind to atone for our crime. While the Chang cavalry has not yet caught up, you should take the young master and the several hundred brothers who are not poisoned and escape to the western regions as soon as possible. Su Nan, though moved, shook his head. It's too late. Shenlang must have guessed we would flee to the western regions and has probably already set an ambush in the west. At this point, he suddenly looked at Su Yong and asked, Su Yong, are you willing to sacrifice your life for me, for the Su family? Su Yong knelt on the ground, his eyes firm, and replied, This old servant would die 10,000 deaths without regret. Su Nan nodded and then said with a grave expression, Then you will put on my robe and lead a portion of the troops to continue west, to confuse Shenlang. I will take the remaining few hundred men and quietly take a detour north through the Chu kingdom to the western regions. At this point, a hint of reluctance appeared in Su Nan's eyes. Su Yong, you have followed me for decades. After this parting, we may never meet again. Before he could finish, Su Yong interrupted him. My lord, do not be sad. If I, Su Yong, can trade my life for your safe departure today, this old servant will die without regret. After saying this, he kowtowed to Su Nan once more. A quarter of an hour later, Su Yong, disguised as Su Nan, led over 1,000 of the main force, attracting the Chang army as they galloped westward. Meanwhile, Su Nan, dressed as a common soldier, quietly headed north with a few hundred trusted men and most of the gold. After traveling for half a day, Su Nan saw no pursuing soldiers behind him and gradually slowed down. I have now traveled 100 miles north. I believe Su Yong has successfully deceived Shenlang. Although I've lost several thousand troops this time, as long long as I can reach the western regions safely with these few hundred elite trusted men and this batch of gold, I will surely make a comeback one day. Shenlang, just you wait. When I return, I will make you and the Jin family pay in blood. However, just as he was rejoicing, the sound of battle cries suddenly erupted from all around. Thousands of cavalry appeared like a tide from all four directions, surrounding the Su troops in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Shenlang's mocking voice came from not far away. Uncle Sunan, are you in a hurry to get to the Chu kingdom? Or perhaps you want to go to the western regions? Hearing Shenlang's voice, Sunan was instantly horrified. He saw Shenlang walking towards him with sword King Li Qianqiu, Big Fool, and others, smiling. Uncle, what took you so long? Your nephew has been waiting here for a long time. Seeing Sunan remain silent, Shenlang picked up a megaphone and shouted, Uncle, your feint to the east and attack to the west was quite clever. But luckily, I'm smart. I anticipated you would find a double to lead the main Su army westward to confuse me. Otherwise, you might have really pulled off the golden cicada sheds its shell trick. As he spoke, Sunan finally couldn't help but slowly lift his cloak's hood. When Li Qianqiu, behind Shenlang, saw Sunan's face, he couldn't help but gasp. He hadn't expected that in just 2 short months, the once high-spirited Sunan had aged so much. Shenlang, however, just sneered. Uncle Sunan, you've lost. Today is the day your Su clan is completely exterminated. With that, his expression turned grim and he gave a sharp command. Archers, ready, kill. At this command, several thousand Chang soldiers raised their bows and crossbows and fired simultaneously. In an instant, thousands of sharp arrows flew through the air. Hundreds of Su soldiers, unable to dodge, fell to the ground. Su Zhan and the great thief Three-Eyed Evil rushed like lightning towards Sunan, shielding him. Amidst the flashing blades and shadows, they deflected all the arrows from the sky. When the rain of arrows subsided slightly, Su Zhan roared with his blade held high. All troops, listen, protect the Lord and break through the siege. We die for our Lord. We fight for the Su clan. Just as Su Zhan and the great thief Three-Eyed Evil were about to join forces to fight Shenlang's army to the death, they were stopped by both Sunan and Shenlang. A moment later, on the vast grassland, the two men stood facing each other between their formations. A light breeze swept across the grass. All around was a profound silence. The troops on both sides stood ready, the air filled with a suffocating tension. At this point, Sunan let out a long breath and slowly said, Shenlang, I truly never expected to fall into your hands in the end. It seems that human greed can really destroy a person's entire life's achievements. If I hadn't tried to kill 3 birds with 1 stone before, wanting the gold coins from the rioters, wanting to eliminate you as well, and also wanting White Knight County City, you probably wouldn't have had the chance to fight that battle of White Knight City. But it's all my fault. At this point, his voice choked, and tears instantly streamed down his face. This time, it's all because of my greed, wanting to possess all the gold in the Chang Royal Palace, that I once again pushed the Su clan to the brink of extinction. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Zhan suddenly rushed forward, crying and blaming himself. Brother, it's not your fault. I was the one who insisted on persuading you to get the gold. You clearly wanted us to go directly to the western regions. Sunan shook his head, composed himself, and said, ultimately, it's because I too was moved by greed. I, Sunan, have always considered myself intelligent, second to no hero under the heavens. Yet, because of a single wrong thought, I have lost everything. However, Shenlang, at this point, he suddenly stared at Shenlang. There is one person you are destined to be unable to contend with. Hearing this, Shenlang was taken aback. Sunan continued, it's noble Lord Jin. Just you wait. One day he will sweep across the entire south, wielding both civilization and barbarian might, and become a new generation's hegemon. Hearing this, Shenlang let out a disdainful, cold laugh. Uncle, since you've commented on this future new hegemon, why not comment on me as well? Sunan looked at him and said, Shenlang, you are indeed exceptionally intelligent, almost demonic in your wisdom. Many times, being your enemy is simply courting death. But do you know what your flaw is? It's arrogance. You are too arrogant. 2 million gold coins, high office and handsome salary. You look down on all of it, except for the few people around you. Anyone else you dislike, you'll scheme them to death just like that. This disposition of yours, looking down on everyone, with no desire other than revenge, you're bound to stumble sooner or later. Hearing such an evaluation, Shenlang's expression was calm, a careless arc playing on his lips. Perhaps, but to me, none of that matters, does it? Seeing Shenlang's nonchalant attitude, Sunan suddenly fell silent. After a moment, he spoke again. Shenlang, I want to ask one last question. The secret letter my father, Su Jian, wrote to the Jin family, did Jinjua burn it or not? Shenlang replied with a hint of regret. Of course he burned it. It's just that you didn't believe my father-in-law and continued to target our Jin family from the shadows. So, I naturally went along with it after learning the contents, copied a few versions, and used them as bait. But that thing wasn't actually very useful. Hearing this, Sunan lowered his head in shame. Jinjua did not deceive me. It was my own petty heart that made me blindly trust others' slander. But if someone hadn't been able to accurately recite the contents of the secret letter back then, how could I have been used? As he spoke, Shenlang's brow furrowed. He pressed, who was that person? Was it someone from the Hidden Origin Society? Or someone from the Shui family? To know the contents in such detail, it could probably only be one of the 2 great allied families of the old patriarch, Count Jin Jin Yu. Sunan shook his head. It doesn't matter who it was anymore. At this point, none of it has any meaning. With that, he suddenly straightened up on his horse and shook his long spear. In that instant, it was as if the once majestic Sunan had returned. He then raised his spear with one arm, pointed it at the Sword King beside Shenlang, and challenged him domineeringly. Li Qianxiu, the last time you tried to assassinate me, you failed. You must be very unwilling. How about we fight again today? However, Li Qianxiu stared at the struggling Sunan and did not immediately accept the challenge. After a moment, he slowly said, Sunan, I don't know what has happened to your body recently, but it's obvious that both your martial arts and your presence are not what they used to be. Are you sure you still want to fight me? Hearing this, Sunan first froze, then burst out laughing. Martial arts are like alcohol tolerance. When one is triumphant, one is naturally strong. When one is a defeated dog, how can one not be dejected? With that, he shouted, take my spear, and spurred his warhorse, charging wildly at Sword King Li Qianxiu. Instantly, the earth-shattering cheers of the soldiers on both sides echoed around them. However, just as Sunan lunged at Li Qianxiu, the Sword King simply swung his sharp sword calmly. The next second, the two figures crossed. With a crisp clang, Sunan's long spear was cut clean in two. In a duel between masters, victory and defeat are often decided in a single move. When the battle ended, Sunan sat slumped on his horse, holding half a broken spear, panting heavily. Looking down, a shocking wound had been cut across his chest. With each heavy breath, blood continuously poured from his mouth. At this moment, Sunan was instead relieved. It's over. It's all over. He then forced himself to turn his horse around and came to Shenlang's side, asking, my young son, Su Jianchang, is only 18 years old. Could you? Before he could finish, Shenlang shook his head and interrupted him. Uncle, you know me. I never leave future troubles for myself. Hearing this, Sunan gave a self-deprecating smile. A wise person, how could they leave behind hidden dangers for themselves? After a sigh, he dismounted and walked over to his young son. He reached out with a trembling hand, caressed his son's face, and said, child, you are truly outstanding. Father can no longer watch you grow up. Forgive me. And with that, he thrust his sword through his son's heart. Before the son could even say a final word to his father, he collapsed to the ground, dead. Gazing at his beloved son's body, after a long moment, Sunan finally couldn't help but roar at the sky. My Su clan's century-old foundation. I never thought it would all come to nothing in the end. He composed himself, then walked over to Su Zhan and patted him. I'm sorry, brother. Your skills as a fierce general were never able to truly shine. It's my fault for not being able to lead you all to success. At this, Su Zhan cried and shook his head desperately, but he was so choked up he couldn't speak a word. Sunan lowered his head, patted his shoulder, and then, without hesitation, ended Su Zhan's life with a single sword strike. The move was so swift and clean that his death was painless. Next was the great thief Three-Eyed Evil, who had followed him for many years, and the remaining 100-plus core soldiers of the Su clan. Amidst the flashing of cold steel, Sunan brandished his sword like lightning. In just a few breaths, they all fell into pools of their own blood. Finally, he slowly walked towards his wife. Looking at the sobbing woman before him, he gently wiped the tears from her face and said softly, I'm sorry, I've implicated you. A failed business just leads to bankruptcy, but a failed rebellion means paying with the lives of the entire clan. As his voice fell, the long sword in his hand pierced directly into her chest. With that, the once prominent Su family was completely exterminated. Sunan stood by his wife's corpse for a long time in silence, then suddenly turned to Shenlang and grinned. Shenlang, remember this. Do not repeat the mistakes of my Su clan. Don't let the Jin family follow in our footsteps. Hearing this, Shenlang respectfully bowed and said, thank you for your lesson, uncle. Sunan nodded, his breathing growing weaker. Shenlang, now that it has come to this, is the enmity between our two families settled? Shenlang said solemnly, almost. There's just one last step. Hearing this, Sunan gave a desolate smile. He was now so weak from blood loss that he could barely speak. Shenlang, you are the recognized genius of the Yu Kingdom. Seeing the tragic state of my Su clan now, could you bestow 2 lines of poetry? Sunan's attitude surprised Shenlang. He nodded, lowered his eyes and thought for a moment, and then recited loudly, the rolling new river flows east, its waves washing away all heroes. Upon hearing this line, Sunan's pupils suddenly constricted. He repeated good, good, good 3 times. His hoarse laughter was tinged with release. Shenlang, your talent is truly remarkable. This line deserves to be called a timeless classic. For thousands of years, how many heroes have fallen? How many noble families have vanished? The destruction of my Su clan today, when placed in the context of 100 years of history, is but a drop in the ocean, not worth mentioning at all. At this point, Sunan paused, looked up at the sky, and a sigh escaped his throat. As far as I'm concerned, the grudge between our two families is now completely settled. Ancestors of the Su clan, I, Sunan, am too ashamed to face you. With that, he raised both palms and, like a flash of lightning, slapped his own face. In an instant, blood splattered, and his head exploded like a watermelon. Thus, this once powerful and influential figure collapsed, dead by his own hand. Sunan committed suicide. After his death, Shenlang slowly walked up to the remaining Su army and said, we won't make a move now. You can decide for yourselves. With that, he turned and walked back towards his own troops. At this moment, the remaining soldiers of the Su army army first showed fear upon hearing Shenlang's words, but when they looked at each other, they all seemed to have made some sort of decision. The next second, Shenlang heard over 100 Su soldiers behind him shout in unison, "As soldiers of the Su family, we swear to follow our master to the death." With that, they drew their swords across their necks, slitting their own throats cleanly. As they fell, Shenlang also paused, sighed softly, and said, "These soldiers of the Su clan are loyal and righteous. Have them buried properly." At the same time, in a valley on the way to the western regions, Su Yong, disguised as Su Nan, had just stepped into the valley entrance when he sensed something was wrong. Looking up, he saw that the cliffs on both sides were densely packed with tens of thousands of Chang soldiers. Looking at this certain death situation, tears of despair instantly welled up in Su Yong's eyes. He drew his sword and roared hoarsely, "Kill! Fight for the Su family!" As the impassioned shouts of the Su soldiers behind him rose in response, thousands of Chang soldiers drew their bows and fired a volley of arrows. Then, countless huge boulders rolled down the steep cliffs, crashing into the valley below. Under this overwhelming attack, screams mixed with the roar of falling rocks filled the entire valley. The Su soldiers had no power to resist. In less than half an hour, the battle was over. At this moment, Su Yong, pierced by several arrows, leaned against the cliff wall, blood trickling down the cracks in the rock. He looked into the distance, a smile of relief on his lips. This old servant has done his best. Please, you must restore the glory of the Su family. Before his voice faded, Su Yong breathed his last. Back on the grassland, dozens of Chang soldiers, following Shenlang's orders, were vigorously wielding shovels, digging pits to bury the bodies of the Su soldiers. As the earth was turned, the foul smell of blood mixed with the scent of grass filled the air. Li Qianqiu, beside Shenlang, watched the scene and couldn't help but sigh. Sometimes I think, if one could just be a farmer, unconcerned with the world, that would be true freedom. Look at Su Nan. In life, he was a man of great power and influence, but in the end, didn't he meet such a tragic end? Hearing this, Shenlang shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. Su Nan was no ordinary man. If he could have overcome his flaw of greed, Zhang Chong and I would not necessarily have been his match." However, Shenlang licked his lips. This revenge was really unsatisfying. I wanted to slaughter the entire Su clan with my own hands, but that old fellow went and did everything I wanted to do himself. As he was speaking, Shen 13 hurried over. "We've collected a lot of gold from the Su family's horse bags, which they brought from the Chang royal palace." Hearing this, Shenlang nodded and then called over Arunana. They went to the carts together. Shenlang then said, "Sister-in-law, this gold was originally plundered by your father. It should rightfully be returned to you." However, Arunana just glanced at the carts full of gold and said nonchalantly, "This is all optional to me. Do you want it? If you do, you can have it all." These words left Shenlang at a loss for whether to laugh or cry. Her generous manner was truly in the style of a spendthrift queen. Shenlang shook his head and said, "I don't need it. If you don't have a use for it right now, let's transport it back to the Chang royal palace. Then find a hidden basement and, like your father, melt it and pour it onto the floor tiles. That way, no one can steal it." Arunana nodded after hearing this. "That works. If you need it later, just come and get it from me anytime." Hearing this, Shenlang's heart warmed. It seemed that although his sister-in-law was fierce on the surface, she was very generous to her own people. Although this gold was of no use to him now, who could predict what the future might hold? Thinking of this, he bowed solemnly and said, "Then I thank you in advance, sister-in-law." Shenlang's side had been progressing very smoothly, but a few days earlier, in the Yu Kingdom's camp on the Wuiwa border, Sovereign Ning Yuanxian was extremely anxious. He never imagined that the newly enthroned king of Wu would be so difficult to deal with. Even though Bianxiao was causing a bloodbath within the Wu Kingdom's territory, with heads rolling, the king of Wu not only refused to compromise but had also reinforced his border troops to 150,000. Now, he only had 80,000 troops left. If the Wu army were to launch a full-scale attack, the consequences would be unimaginable. Over the next few days, bad news continued to pour in from the frontline scouts. The Chu Kingdom's army was frantically attacking Zhong Rao's defensive line, capturing more than 10 fortresses. 30,000 Wu soldiers attacked Furious Tide City, and Marquis Jin Zhuo was assassinated. Under the weight of this successive bad news, Ning Yuanxian was on pins and needles every day, in utter agony. It wasn't until Princess Ning Jie sent a secret letter from White Knight City that the sovereign's psychological defenses were completely shattered. The letter stated, "Shenlang has still not appeared. Su Nan has reinforced his troops again. Zhang Chong is gravely ill. White Knight County City is about to fall." Seeing these words, although the sovereign had prepared for the worst, he was still struck as if by lightning, nearly collapsing to the ground. After a long while, he forced himself to sit back at the table and tried to calm his emotions. "If the battle for White Knight City is lost, I, the king of you, will have no choice but to compromise with that young brat Wu Qi. But ceding 2 counties and paying war indemnities, this huge loss will not only severely weaken the Yu Kingdom, but our position as the southern hegemon will also be handed over." Thinking of this, the unwillingness in his eyes was almost about to erupt. "No, the outcome of the Battle of White Knight City has not yet been decided. I absolutely cannot be so dejected. There is still no news from Shenlang's side. He will definitely return to White Knight City. Hasn't this kid always been able to create unexpected miracles? Shenlang, you absolutely must not disappoint disappoint me. At the same time, in the Wu Kingdom's camp, King Wu Qi was also on pins and needles. The bloody storm stirred up by Bian Shao and his territory was causing huge losses to the Wu Kingdom every day, but he had no choice. The last secret letter from Wu Mu at Furious Tide City had confidently promised that this battle would be foolproof. He just needed to keep his eyes firmly on White Knight City in the west of the Wu Kingdom. After all, that was the key to deciding the fate of the world. As long as Zhang Chong was destroyed and White Knight City fell, when Su Nan's army swept through the province of the southern journey, Ning Yuanxian would naturally make Bian Shao retreat and then obediently sue for peace. At that time, he, Wu Qi, would be able to wash away his shame and properly humiliate Ning Yuanxian. Thinking of this, he asked the deputy general beside him, "What is the situation of the battle at White Knight City?" Hearing this, the deputy general shook his head with a troubled expression. Heaven knows, for days on end, their king had asked this question dozens of times, but the two places were far apart, and no matter how fast the scouts were, they couldn't deliver the news in time. Wu Qi frowned and muttered to himself, "This shouldn't be. The war report from the Western Celestial Province should have arrived long ago. The Battle of White Knight County should also be over." Before he could finish speaking, General Wu Qi walked into the tent and said, "Your Majesty, do not be anxious. Judging from the current situation, the outcome has long been decided." The king's uncle's words immediately gave the king of Wu a little peace of mind. Uncle is right. At that time, Su Nan will surely execute Zhang Chong and then sweep through the entire Western Celestial Province. And my great general of the Wu Kingdom, Wu Mu, will also capture Furious Tide City, thus washing away our shame. However, just as he thought of this, a scout suddenly stumbled into the main tent, shouting loudly, "Your Majesty, urgent war report from Furious Tide City." Looking at the kneeling scout, the king of Wu couldn't help but frown again. "It's not the war report from the Western Celestial Province. What's there to see from Furious Tide City?" He impatiently took the report. Even now, the king of Wu still thought that for a battle as certain as the one at Furious Tide City, Wu Mu using an 800-kilometer express was making a mountain out of a molehill. However, when he unfolded the paper and his eyes fell on the first line, he froze as if struck by lightning. It read, "Your Majesty, your servant is guilty. In the Battle of Furious Tide City, your servant was defeated." The Wu Kingdom's great general Wu Mu was actually disastrously defeated in the Battle of Furious Tide City. At this moment, King Wu Qi looked at the war report in his hand in disbelief. He couldn't believe that not long ago, his cousin Wu Mu had confidently sent a message saying that by using his cousin's sister to confuse the Jin family's main general, Jin Shuring, taking Furious Tide City was a sure thing. But now, in the report in his hand, every word showed how desperate his cousin was. From the initial siege of the Jin family to falling for Jin Shuring's counter-espionage plot, and then being betrayed by the pirate Xiao Hao, he was so full of regret he wished he could die immediately. After a long while, having read the entire report, the king of Wu slumped into his chair, utterly dejected. Wu Ji stepped forward, about to ask about the contents, when the king of Wu handed him the report, saying, "Uncle, don't ask. You should see for yourself." Indeed, this was Wu Qi's first major strategic move since ascending the throne. To divert attention, he had even personally led tens of thousands of troops south, approaching the Yu border. But now, the disastrous defeat at Furious Tide City had left him without the strength to even speak. "Jin Shuring." The king of Wu gritted his teeth and spat out the name. "It's all because of you, Jin Shuring. If you hadn't used a counter-espionage plot, how could my Wu Kingdom have lost so miserably this time?" Beside him, Wu Ji was also stunned after seeing the contents of the letter. The defeat at Furious Tide City was so severe. Of the 30,000 troops sent, 18,000 were lost. This was equivalent to the entire million in military funds that the Hidden Origin Society had advanced to the Wu Kingdom going down the drain. After this battle, the relationship between the Wu Kingdom and the Hidden Origin Society would probably worsen. Although the situation was urgent, this veteran general quickly composed himself and consoled, "Your Majesty, what you lose on the swings, you gain on the roundabouts. The situation is not yet beyond redemption. The war report from the Western Celestial Province will be here soon. Once Zhang Chong is defeated and Su Nan sweeps across the entire Western Celestial Province, Ning Yuanxian will definitely sue for peace. At that time, we can still reclaim at least 3 counties. We can still turn this battle from defeat to victory." At this advice, hope was reignited in the king of Wu's eyes. "That's right, the situation hasn't reached its worst point yet. Although my Wu Kingdom failed to capture Furious Tide City, this battle was just a local setback. But the Yu Kingdom is about to face a catastrophe. My Wu Kingdom has not yet lost. As long as we receive news of victory from the Western Celestial Province battlefield, Ning Yuanxian will surely compromise." Thinking of this, the king of Wu shot up and shouted, "Uncle is absolutely right. I have not yet failed. Let us await the arrival of the war report from the Western Celestial Province. Let us wait for Ning Yuanxian to bow his head and sue for peace to my Wu Kingdom." However, before his voice had even faded, a scout's panicked cry came from outside the camp. "Your Majesty, it's terrible. An urgent report from White Knight County. The main force of the Su clan has been disastrously defeated, almost completely annihilated." This report was like a bolt from the blue, stunning the king of Wu into a rigid stupor. His mind went completely blank. What did you say?" The scout, terrified, fell to his knees with a thud and stammered, "Your Majesty, the Su clan's main force was completely annihilated in the Battle of White Knight County." Hearing this, Wu Ji roared like a provoked beast. "How is that possible? How? Didn't the Su clan's secret report say Zhang Chong was critically ill and on his deathbed, and that they had captured his son and grandson? Wasn't it said that taking White Knight County City was a foregone conclusion? What went wrong?" The scout, frightened by the King of Wu's roar, slammed his head on the ground and trembled. At the critical moment, he led 20,000 Chang Kingdom cavalry in a surprise attack from the rear, catching the Su army completely off guard. In less than half a day, he had them utterly defeated, with almost none left. Hearing this, the King of Wu staggered. "It's Shenlang again." At this moment, the King of Wu, struck by this massive blow, could barely stand, only managing not to fall by leaning on the throne beside him. "How did you do it? To make me lose so miserably?" Now Wu Mu has lost Furious Tide City. Bian Zhao's army is running rampant in my Wu Kingdom, and Su Nan's main force in White Knight County is completely annihilated. Now Ning Yuanxian has achieved a great victory in the Western Celestial Province. Ning Yuanxian, you must be very proud now. You climbed from hell to the clouds, still high and mighty, while pushing me, Wu Qi, once again into the abyss. At this moment, the King of Wu felt a sense of despair wash over him like a tide. He was scared. He felt as if he could see the map of the Wu Kingdom being torn apart and devoured. And next, what kind of harsh conditions would Ning Yuanxian propose? Would he really have to cede a county? Would he, Wu Qi, have to commit such a treasonous act of ceding territory and suffering humiliation right after his ascension? Thinking of this, he looked blankly at Wu Ji, his voice filled with an unprecedented desolation. "Uncle, do you think I'm really not cut out for this? Am I really not fit to sit in this position?" Hearing the King of Wu's words, Wu Ji suddenly knelt down heavily and comforted him. "Your Majesty, victory and defeat are common in military affairs. A true king grows through the crucible of blood and fire. A minister can seek stability, but a king must be sharp and brilliant. In the past, when you were determined to reform, I advised you to restrain your edge, fearing you would make too many enemies. But now it seems that this sharpness is exactly what the Wu Kingdom needs." At this point, a cold light flashed in Wu Ji's eyes as he said sternly, "In the upcoming negotiations with Ning Yuanxian, your Majesty must make the decision personally. As for those noisy conservative old ministers in the court, you can rest assured. With me here, whoever dares to speak out, I will have them splattered with blood in the court." At this moment, Wu Ji's heartfelt words were like a powerful stimulant, instantly recondensing the King of Wu's scattered will. "Uncle, you are right. As the ruler of the Wu Kingdom, I cannot fall at this moment. Whatever difficulties and obstacles lie ahead, I alone will bear all the consequences and responsibilities. As you said, I still have to negotiate with Ning Yuanxian. My battle is not over. It has just begun." While the King of Wu was anxious over his defeat, the King of Yu, who had not yet received the battle report, was also on pins and needles. At this moment, he sat cross-legged on a couch in his camp, fingering prayer beads and reciting Buddhist scriptures, trying his best to calm his mind and pray for victory. In his heart, although the current situation was not yet a matter of life and death for the Yu Kingdom, it was already a perilous situation. At this time, the war report from the White Knight County battlefield had become the key to determining the fate of the Yu Kingdom. If the report was of victory, the Yu Kingdom would see a new dawn. If the news was of defeat, he would fall into an abyss of eternal damnation. Just then, the little eunuch Lian rushed in. "Your Majesty, great news! Great news! A victory report from the front line. Young Master Shen has eliminated Arutai's army and supported Arunana as the new queen of the Chan Kingdom. They led 20,000 Chan Iron Cavalry into the White Knight County battlefield, joining forces with Lord Zhang Chong from both inside and out to crush the rebel army. The main force of the Su clan is almost completely annihilated." The moment Ning Yuanxian heard this victory report, his mind went blank. He froze on the spot. In a daze, a sense of unreality washed over him. He murmured, "You're saying we won?" It wasn't until Lian nodded forcefully, confirming the news, that their eyes met. The King of Yu suddenly blurted out, "Damn," and shot up from the couch, snatching the secret letter from Lian's hand. After reading the contents over and over, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Good, Shenlang, you really didn't disappoint me. Someone, get wine. Today, I will drink until I can't drink anymore." A moment later, Ning Yuanxian sat at the table, alone, and downed 3 cups of wine in a row. The moment he set the cup down, the pressure of months of warfare was finally released. It wasn't until he had drained the entire pot of wine that he contentedly fell drunk onto the couch. In his drunken haze, he still muttered, "Shenlang, you kid are really something. Not only did you subdue the new Chan Queen Arunana, but you also annihilated Su Nan's main force in one fell swoop. I only had 3/10 of hope in you, and you brought me such a huge surprise." At this point, Ning Yuanxian excitedly propped himself up and said to eunuch Li Ji, "Don't you think Shenlang's bold and resourceful character is a bit like mine?" Hearing this, how could Li Ji dare to speak the truth? He could only nod with a fawning smile. The drunk King of Yu didn't mind and continued to talk to himself. That Zhang Chong is also amazing. He trusted Shenlang's decision before the great battle and even gambled his own life. Who would have thought that 2 former enemies would now become trusted friends who would die for each other? At this point, Ning Yuanxian could no longer control his excitement. With tears in his eyes from laughter, his voice choked. "Zhang Chong, I thank you all. I won this great great battle. As his voice fell, Ning Yuanxian felt a wave of drowsiness. The next second, the wine cup in his hand fell to the floor with a clatter. And just like that, he fell fast asleep. Li Ji, seeing this, hurriedly stepped forward and gently covered him with a silk quilt. As the sovereign's personal eunuch, he knew better than anyone what kind of pressure their king was under. As a minister, if defeated, one would simply die on the battlefield. If Shenlang lost, it would just be a failure. Only His Majesty bore the responsibility for the success or failure of the entire nation. Now that the great battle was won, His Majesty could finally get a good night's sleep. The scene shifts to the distant guard Marquis' castle. Since occupying this place, Jing Tua and Liang Yongnian had been indulging in a life of hedonistic luxury, paying almost no attention to the outside war. Little did they know that every bit of food they ate, every drop of wine they drank, had been secretly poisoned with the smallpox virus by Su Nan. A few days later, the naturally lustful Jing Tua, having slept with each of Su Nan's concubines, finally remembered, while holding a beautiful concubine in his arms, that he should get down to business. That night, Jing Tua went to Su Nan's study alone and began to draft a war report for the sovereign. Why didn't he send the victory report as soon as he took the castle? Of course, it was for selfish reasons. He had to create the illusion of a prolonged battle to avoid suspicion that the fight was too easy. After a while, he reviewed the contents of the report with satisfaction. After the great battle of White Knight County City, your servant and Lord Liang marched south with our army to attack the Su clan's castle. After fighting fiercely with the rebel army for 5 days and 5 nights, our army suffered over 10,000 casualties, but finally captured the castle with the result of annihilating 8,000 enemies, completely quelling Su Nan's rebellion. However, the old scoundrel Su Nan was too cunning and escaped secretly with a few trusted followers, so your servants were unable to achieve complete success. We beg your Majesty's forgiveness. After checking it for errors, he walked out of the study and happened to run into Liang Yongnian, who had also just finished writing his report. The two exchanged a look of tacit understanding and then went to the living room together. They first exchanged some compliments on each other's achievements, and then Jing Tua spoke first. Lord Liang, this time our war report should not only be sent to the sovereign and the crown prince, but we also need to send people to vigorously publicize this victory. We must let the whole world know that it was you and I who turned the tide and pacified the western rebellion of the Yu kingdom. What do you think? Hearing this, Liang Yongnian first nodded in agreement, but then frowned and said, but His Majesty will eventually find out that it was Shenlang and Zhang Chong who eliminated Su Nan's main army. At these words, Jing Tua sneered. Don't forget that Shenlang relied on the Chang Kingdom cavalry to destroy the Su clan's main force. That means he deliberately led barbarian troops into our territory. Such a person with wolfish ambitions is clearly trying to rebel. How is such behavior any different from Su Nan's? At this point, Liang Yongnian suddenly understood and echoed, exactly. Not only did this man disobey orders to attack the Su clan's castle, but he also acted arrogantly towards us and obstructed us in many ways, which allowed Su Nan to escape. Just then, Jing Tua added with a ruthless look, not only that, Shenlang also condoned the Chang Kingdom cavalry to wantonly burn, kill, and plunder within our borders. These words made Liang Yongnian freeze. Did that happen? Jing Tua smiled sinisterly. Of course not. We can carry it out on his behalf. Make it happen for him. As the saying goes, if you don't court death, you won't die. These two old schemers, Jing Tua and Liang Yongnian, were actually preparing to make a move on Shenlang. The day after Jing Tua decided to frame Shenlang, a force flying the banner of the Chan Iron Cavalry suddenly appeared in White Knight territory. These cavalrymen, aside from avoiding distant Guard City and White Knight City, ravaged all the other cities in the county. Everywhere these cavalry went, they proclaimed loudly that this was because the Chan cavalry had helped Shenlang, but Shenlang had not fulfilled his promise to the Chan Queen for borrowing the troops. Therefore, he had permitted them to plunder freely within White Knight County as military expenses and rewards. The common people of the county, not knowing the truth, how could they tell the difference? They only knew that the plunderers before them were Chan cavalry, and the main culprit who brought this disaster was Shenlang. Every day, the entire county was filled with white paper scattered like snow, and mourning clothes were worn in every household. In the streets and alleys, curses filled with deep-seated hatred for Shenlang could be heard. Once things fermented, someone was bound to step forward. Soon, retired officials led hundreds of scholars to jointly file complaints everywhere, and the real perpetrators, Jing Tua and Liang Yongnian, decided to act separately to cover their tracks. Jing Tua continued to guard the Su clan's castle, while Liang Yongnian moved into distant Guard City and temporarily converted the city lord's mansion into the central commander's headquarters. The plan proceeded smoothly. Before long, countless victimized commoners came to file complaints before Liang Yongnian, crying out to him, Lord Liang, you must seek justice for us common people. The scoundrel Shenlang condoned barbarian soldiers to wreak havoc. Our old and young were slaughtered, our property was looted, and all women in the city over the age of 12 were violated by these beasts. Listening to the people's tearful accusations, Liang Yongnian was inwardly shocked. Jing Tua had really gone too far, but to complete the plan to frame Shenlang, he suppressed his guilt and pretended to be heartbroken, wailing, Scoundrel Shenlang, you actually led barbarian troops into into our kingdom to burn, kill, and plunder. Such heinous acts are intolerable by heaven. Killing my people of you is like killing my own family. This feud is irreconcilable. Fellow countrymen, rest assured. Even if I, Liang Yongnian, lose my official post, I will definitely get justice for you. At these words, the crowd below erupted in grateful cheers. That night, Liang Yongnian hurried back to the Su clan's castle to discuss the next steps with Jing Tuo. After a few drinks, Jing Tuo, having heard Liang Yongnian's account, couldn't help but laugh. Lord Liang's performance was masterfully coordinated. The tragedy of leading barbarian troops into the country once plunged the Yu Kingdom into misery 100 years ago. Reenacting it now will surely touch a raw nerve throughout the nation. Hearing this, Liang Yongnian frowned and mused. Even so, although Shenlang's military merits can be erased by this, Princess Ning Jie is still in White Knight City. I'm afraid this matter can't be hidden from the sovereign. Jing Tuo laughed. Why do we need to hide it from the sovereign? As long as we can deceive the world and the entire court, that's enough. The ones who burned, killed, and plundered in White Knight County were the Chan army. Plus, Shenlang has a previous record of leading mobs to plunder. Isn't it perfectly appropriate to throw this dirty water on him? These words made Liang Yongnian suddenly see the light. Right, Shenlang has just achieved a great merit and is probably still basking in his own glory. This crime should be enough to completely crush him. With that, the two looked at each other and smiled, raising their cups at the same time, as if Shenlang had already fallen into their inescapable trap. The scene shifts to the border between the Chang and Yu kingdoms. Shenlang, escorted by over 2,000 Chan iron cavalry, was transporting several carts of Su clan members' heads, marching grandly into the territory of the Yu kingdom. However, not long after entering the territory of White Knight County, a scout from the front rushed back to report that they had spotted an enemy. Shenlang's expression tensed. What's going on? Someone's already getting impatient to make a move? Suppressing the urge to investigate, they continued to advance. Suddenly, the sound of thundering war drums came from ahead. Looking closely, they saw an army of at least 5,000 militia, armed with weapons, blocking the road. These people, their faces filled with grief and indignation, roared furiously, demanding that Shenlang be cut into 1,000 pieces and pay for their dead relatives. Seeing this, Shenlang was also stunned. What's going on? Aren't these the people of White Knight County? Why do they have such a great hatred for me? Just as he was puzzled, Liang Yongnian, dressed in military attire, rushed out, pointed at Shenlang, and roared, "Scoundrel Shenlang, do you know your crime?" The moment he saw Liang Yongnian, Shenlang understood everything. A cold smile touched his lips as he shrugged and asked, "Lord Liang, what crime has Shen committed?" Liang Yongnian said painfully, 100 years ago, the barbarians invaded, burning, killing, and plundering, causing 5 of our Yu kingdom's counties to fall. Now, you have once again led the Chang kingdom cavalry into our Yu kingdom. Just because you couldn't pay their mercenary fees, you condone them to plunder the common people, causing countless deaths and injuries. Your actions are simply those of a beast. With that, he turned to the people behind him. Fellow countrymen, look at these people before you. Weren't these the Chang cavalry who went to your homes to burn, kill, and plunder? As his voice fell, the commoners all looked behind Shenlang. When they saw the unique attire of the Chan army and the Heavenly Wolf War banner, they became enraged. It's them. They are the ones who dishonored our wives and daughters and killed our families. Hearing the people's pain cries, Shenlang was so shocked he was speechless. He hadn't expected that to deal with him. Liang Yongnian and Jing Tuo would be so ruthless as to harm the common people. They had done something that even a ruthless person like Su Nan had never done, and they could do it with a clear conscience. Just then, Liang Yongnian ordered his men to dump the carts of heads onto the ground, feigning grief as he cried out, "Shenlang, take a good look at these innocent people who have died. You condone the barbarian soldiers to plunder. That's bad enough, but why did you have to kill them all? Do you have any humanity left?" Looking at the scene before him, Shenlang stared at the heads on the ground, his gaze towards Liang Yongnian as cold as ice, his killing intent almost tangible. Jing Tuo, Liang Yongnian, I never thought that to frame me. You would actually slaughter over 10,000 innocent people. Aren't you afraid that the 10,000 vengeful souls will come looking for you? Just then, Liang Yongnian suddenly drew his sword, pointed it at Shenlang, and shouted, "Shenlang, I advise you to surrender immediately and hand over those Chang murderers behind you. Otherwise, don't blame me for acting first and reporting later, and executing you on the spot." As his voice fell, the common people, emboldened by Liang Yongnian's support, picked up stones from the ground and threw them at Shenlang and his men. Big Fool, seeing this, quickly stepped in front of Shenlang, using his burly body to block the attack. Looking at the chaotic scene, a triumphant look flashed in Liang Yongnian's eyes. "Shenlang, now you can't clear your name even if you jump into the new river. You're still too green to fight with us." Shenlang, however, looked at him as if he were a dead man. "Liang Yongnian, are you an idiot? Framing me for burning, killing, plundering, and killing innocents? Do you think I care about these things? I was originally going to let the sovereign deal with you, but now it seems unnecessary, since you're in such a hurry to die. Don't worry, I will definitely fulfill your desires to the fullest." Shenlang shouted, "All troops, listen to my command. Annihilate all enemy forces before you. Anyone who dares to approach within 10 feet of our army, whether civilian or soldier, will be treated as a rebel and killed without exception." As his voice fell, the thousands of Chang Kingdom iron cavalry behind Shenlang brandished their sabers and charged forward like a hide. However, Liang Yongnian's group of militiamen, who were not a regular army, were no match for the fully armed elites of the Chang kingdom. In just a short time, he lost over 1,000 men. Panicked, Liang Yongnian roared, "Shenlang, are you insane? I am an official appointed by the imperial court. How dare you lead the Chang army against the official army of the Yu kingdom? Aren't you afraid the sovereign will condemn you?" In his panic, he turned and shouted to the people behind him, "Fellow townspeople, look, Shenlang is again letting the Chang cavalry slaughter the innocent. Charge forward and avenge your families." However, the townspeople, who had only dared to come because they had Liang Yongnian's army for support, were terrified by the ferocious Chang soldiers and fled. Seeing his forces were no match, Liang Yongnian leaped onto his horse to escape. Shenlang coldly said, "Wu Lai, capture this scumbag and bring him back to me alive." A quarter of an hour later, Wu Lai threw a terrified Liang Yongnian before Shenlang. All his previous arrogance was gone. Shenlang stepped forward and asked, "Liang Yongnian, who sent you to block me?" Liang Yongnian trembled and roared, "Shenlang, you madman. I am an official of the court. I came to eliminate a pest for the people." Before he could finish, a cold light flashed. A bloody ear fell to the ground. As heart-wrenching pain shot through him, Liang Yongnian screamed, his wails echoing all around. Shenlang said coldly, "Liang Yongnian, do you really think I don't know that you and Jing Tuo deliberately framed me for slaughtering the people of White Knight County? You want to turn my merits into crimes and steal the credit for eliminating the Su family, right?" Looking at Liang Yongnian's hate-filled eyes, Shenlang shouted, "Bring him up." Chang soldiers threw a bound man to the ground. Shenlang asked, "Are you from Snow Ridge City?" The man nodded reluctantly. Shenlang continued, "If I remember correctly, you were one of the people who got rich with me. Since I let you escape the Su family's pursuit with money, why did you come here to cause trouble?" The man said nothing, his eyes full of venom. Shenlang smiled. "I understand. You're here for revenge because I left you outside White Knight County as bait for the Su family, right?" Before he finished, Wu Lai stepped forward. "Young Master Shen, these riders are carrying more than just daggers. We also found poison blow darts. I'm afraid they didn't just come here to cause trouble." Shenlang clapped. "Impressive. You all are really bold. But since you're here for revenge, you must be prepared to bear the consequences of failure. I can't just spare you because you are civilians, right?" His expression turned cold. "Men, execute this man and all the riders behind him. Leave no one alive." As the Chang soldiers swiftly killed them, the remaining crowd trembled in fear. Shenlang calmly addressed them. White Knight County was plundered, and more than 10,000 people died. "Are you sure it was the Chang army?" The crowd was silent. "Don't be nervous," Shenlang said with a smile. "Just tell me what you saw." After a moment, a man shouted, "That's right. It was the Chang. We saw it clearly. You led the Chang army into the country, and when you couldn't pay them after defeating the Su family, you let them plunder and kill." The area fell silent. "Is that so?" Shenlang said grimly. "You, come out here." Two Chang soldiers dragged the terrified man forward. "What are you doing?" he yelled. "Shenlang, you do these things but won't let people talk about them?" Shenlang sneered. "So, you're a scholar. Do you have a title?" The man's arrogance surfaced. "I am untalented, but I recently passed the county-level imperial examination." Shenlang's face darkened. He himself had no formal title. Even his higher rank had been a special grant from the sovereign. "So what if you're a scholar?" he roared. "Open your dog eyes and see what the Chang people look like. Just because they carry a certain banner, does that mean they are from the Chang kingdom?" The scholar was taken aback. He turned to look at a typical Chang soldier, weather-beaten, dark-skinned, with rough features and a sturdy build. "The Chang kingdom is on a plateau," Shenlang said angrily. "Long exposure to the sun makes their skin dark and their features rough. They eat meat, so their physiques are sturdy. Are you sure the soldiers you saw looked like this?" The scholar was speechless. Shenlang lost his patience and signaled a soldier to put a saber to his neck. The terrified scholar stammered. They were indeed different from the Chang soldiers we saw." Shenlang smiled, satisfied. "That's more like it. A scholar's duty is to admit and correct his mistakes." He then turned to the crowd and shouted, "I, Shenlang, reiterate, the ones who burned, killed, and plundered in the White Knight Commandery were not me and the Chang soldiers. It is now certain that remnants of the Su family disguised themselves as the Chang army to frame me. These rebels are likely among you. I am here under the sovereign's order to cleanse the entire western celestial province of the Su family." Just then, a man in the crowd quietly questioned, "What evidence do you have?" "The sword is in your hand. The truth is whatever you say it is." Shenlang's eagle-like gaze swept the crowd. "Bring me the person who just spoke." When the man was thrown before him, Shenlang asked icily, "You're dissatisfied with me? It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're Liang Yongnian's man, Jing Tuo's lackey, or a Su remnant. If you dare stir up trouble, there's only death. Execute him." The man's face turned ashen, and his pleas for mercy were cut short as he was killed. The crowd was petrified. "I'll say it again," Shenlang said sternly. "The burning and killing in White Knight County had nothing to do with me. I, Shenlang, take responsibility for my actions. But if you want to frame me, you'd better be able to bear the consequences. Now, get out of my way, or you will be treated as a Su remnant." He then turned to Liang Yongnian with a smirk. "Idiot. Oh, my mistake, Lord Liang. We should be going." As Liang Yongnian opened his mouth to retort, a noose was thrown around his neck. Before he could react, Shenlang whipped his horse and charged forward, dragging Liang Yongnian behind him. "I was just worried your legs might be slow." Shenlang grinned, cracking his whip to speed up. Unable to keep up, Liang Yongnian tripped and fell, begging for mercy as he was dragged. "Lord Shen, spare me." It was Jin Tuo who had his cavalry disguise themselves as Chang soldiers to burn, kill, and plunder. He did it to meet his quota of 8,000 Su soldiers killed, so he killed innocents to claim credit and then framed you for it. Shen Lang slowed down and shouted to the crowd, "Did you all hear that?" It was impossible not to. The crowd murmured among themselves, still suspicious that the confession was forced. Shen Lang muttered, "A bunch of idiots," then fiercely whipped his horse, dragging Liang Yongnian away, leaving his screams in a cloud of dust behind. Half an hour later, Shen Lang led 2,000 Chang soldiers into distant Guard City. By then, Liang Yongnian, dragged behind the horse, was long dead, the lower half of his body gone. Shen Lang asked Wu Lai, "Are Liang Yongnian's family members in distant Guard City?" "2 sons, 1 brother, and 8 nephews," Wu Lai replied. "They are thoroughly wicked and were involved in impersonating the Chang army." Shen Lang gave a sinister smile. "In that case, kill them all without restraint, and then use their corpses as a gift. Send it to General Zheng Tuo."